Okay. Good evening. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. We've been talking about the purpose of the body and the use to which you put it. And the fact that when those two things are out of sync, you have problems. The body is a means, not an end. It is a means of communication. And the only worthy communication that you can engage in is the acknowledgement in another or in a thing of that which is divine about them. The acknowledgement of what they truly are. The recognition of God right there. The purpose of the body is to be the means by which the communication of such acknowledgement occurs. Now let's talk for a moment about body as an end. You might not think I'm aware of things like this, but if you walk into any department store, into the kitchen section these days, you will find toasters that are styled in a 30s and 40s theme. Now you tell me what the style of the appearance of a toaster has to do with browning bread so that you can enjoy it with your eggs and bacon in the morning. It serves a purpose of being an end in itself, a decoration in your kitchen. And of course, if you're one of the first ones to have it, well, you can be proud of being up to date in a modern kitchen, which is really ridiculous because it's a design from the 1930s. I mean, you see the senselessness of it. When a toaster becomes a fixture in your kitchen, so that the kitchen has a pleasing appearance, and even makes some statement about you, it's lost its purpose, hasn't it? It has become an end in itself. And at the bottom line, the purpose of it having an end is to make a statement about you. This is always what using a thing as an end means. Now, I've mentioned before that there's really only one function or one purpose for vision, for seeing. It's much the same as the function of the body, in that the purpose of vision is to allow you to be able to acknowledge that which is real in whatever you're looking at. In other words, the purpose of vision is to give something. But I've mentioned before that you generally use vision to gather data, to know if you're safe, to know how to behave under the circumstances. And when you're doing that, you're not making the gift. When you're doing that, you are involved in self-consciousness. not other consciousness. Self-consciousness. And the only reason any of you ever engage in self-consciousness is for self-protection, which means that you have identified yourself as body rather than consciousness, mind. Whenever you are not identifying yourself as consciousness, giving your attention to making the gift of acknowledging the truth of everything you're seeing, you're engaged in self-defense, you are identified as a body, your body has become an object that you call you, and you're like the toaster that has some other purpose than browning bread. You've lost your purpose. You see, we've used the phrase using the body as a means or an end, and you might not have quite understood practically what that meant. But when you are self-conscious and you are using vision to get, you have shifted to using the body as an end. How is that? When you are gathering data to find out whether you're safe or not, you try to do this data gathering skillfully and unnoticed, right? I mean, you don't really want everybody to know that you don't trust them. And so you use your body to distract them by making a presentation that has a certain effect. One of the ways you do it is that you dress nicely to make a good impression. You don't walk in with guns on your hips and bullets across your chest and a knife in your hand. You walk in looking as benign as possible, with as much elegance as is appropriate under the circumstances. You don't want to look like a slob, because you want to appear to be credible, decent, respectable, right? But still, you use your body to make an impression. And that's not a gift, because it's selfish. You're protecting yourself while you engage in surreptitiously gathering information. You roll over in bed in the morning and turn to your wife or husband, and in a soft voice you say, "Did you sleep well?" You see, benign. But what you're really asking is it safe for me to get up out of bed without being on guard? You see, but you have a presentation. And this act of apparent caring is totally selfish. Why? Because you think that you may be in danger, that you may be confronted by somebody who's still mad at you for what happened last night. You see? That's what's characteristic of self-consciousness. Now, I want to shift here. Creation is an unself-conscious, exuberant, joyful, spontaneous expression of being. If something happens that tickles your funny bone and causes you to burst out laughing, you suddenly move into a state of total unself-consciousness. And if you want to find out what happened, how you behaved, you would have to go back to a videotape, some sort of picture that you could watch. You would have to find out what you were being after the fact, because you were in a state of unself-conscious self-expression. In other words, the impression you were making or how you looked was the furthest thing from your mind. God doesn't be for anyone else. Creation is not a movement to impress. Creation is not a movement to create an impression. It is a spontaneous movement of exquisite perfection because, as we've been talking about, God is a singularity. Creation is that singularity rendered visible, recognizable, experienceable to the mind that moved, that was the act of creation. When you are using your body properly, you're not self-conscious. You're not into any level of conscious awareness of what kind of an impression you're making. You are engaged in the on-the-spot recognition of the presence of God moving in whatever you're looking at, whether it's a brother or a sister or a plant or a table or a leaf or a fingernail. It's a pure gift without strings. And you know what? You can bring that purity of being, you can bring that conscious experience of being into any and every aspect of your day. It's not a holy or spiritual or religious thing to be relegated to a synagogue or a church or a temple. So, we will continue, but at least now you have a better understanding of how it is that you can slip into using your body as an end rather than a means. Your habit, your persistence of perception would hold your body as something separate from you, something not you, that you inhabit for a period of time and then abandon, or it abandons you, it would seem. But this is not the truth. It is the visibility and tangibility of your individuality, which is God presencing Himself right where you are. And your body must be brought back into your recognition of yourself, just as the world must be brought back into your recognition of yourself. So that there is not this split perception in which some of your conscious experience is yours and you, and the rest of it is not yours and is not you. The ego's goal is for you to keep this separation, to keep this artificial division in place in your mind, because that's the one thing that can keep you from remembering who you are. It's the one thing that can apparently successfully distract you from waking up. And so it's very important, it's essential to become clear about body, world, universe, and you. Okay. Next section, healing as corrected perception. We once said that the Holy Spirit is the answer. He is the answer to everything because he knows what the answer to everything is. And once again, let's not forget that the Holy Spirit is nothing more than your right mind. The ego does not know what a real question is, although it asks an endless number. Well, what would be a real question? A real question would be something that uncovers and undoes a misperception. The questions the ego asks distracts you from asking such pertinent questions. The ego does not know what a real question is, although it asks an endless number. Yet you can learn this as you learn to question the value of the ego. Well, there's a good question. One that will tend to undo the illusion or the misperception. You can learn this as you learn to question the value of the ego and thus establish your ability to evaluate its questions. Now, this is an example of the absurdity of an ego's question. Where does your lap go when you stand up? What is the sound of one hand clapping? They're questions that can't be answered. But the ego asks them together with the suggestion that there is an answer and that it would be well for you to engage in finding it. It's very much like the children's game where they send an unsuspecting buddy out on a snipe hunt, knowing that there aren't any snipes, you see, and taking advantage of the buddy's ignorance. So we're talking about learning to distinguish answerable and unanswerable questions, evaluating the ego's questions so that you can recognize that going for that answer is going to be futile and will not uncover anything that will displace a misperception. When the ego tempts you to sickness, do not ask the Holy Spirit to heal the body, for this would merely be to accept the ego's belief that the body is the proper aim for healing. See, when the ego tempts you to sickness, you see, the proper place to give your attention is the undoing of the temptation. the recognition that you're being tempted, so that you may turn your back on the tempter and say, "Get thee behind me. Get out of my sight. I do not choose to embrace you and give any part of my attention to you," you see. When the ego tempts you to sickness, do not ask the Holy Spirit to heal the body, for this would merely be to accept the ego's belief that the body is the proper aim for healing. Ask rather that the Holy Spirit teach you the right perception of the body, for perception alone can be distorted. Only perception can be sick, because only perception can be wrong. Now, there's an important point in here. Ask rather that the Holy Spirit teach you the right perception of the body. It doesn't say, ask the Holy Spirit to help you see that the body isn't real, or that it doesn't exist. You ask for the right perception of the body because something is going on there that is real, and you want the right perception. This next sentence is very important. Wrong perception is distorted willing. It's a distorted use of will. Wrong perception is distorted willing, which wants things to be as they are not. The ego would say, your body's acting up. Your body is at odds with you. Correction of your body needs to occur. You need medication. You need to coerce it one way or another into better, more harmonious behavior. Understanding, of course, that it's not really you, and it's only a temporary abode, and therefore doesn't really care about you, doesn't have your best interests at heart. So you need to coerce this that is perfectly willing to function at odds with you and not in your best interest. You need to finesse this enemy into better behavior. And all the time that this dialogue is going on, you are being tempted not to give your attention to the tempter and still his voice by withdrawing your attention from it. Your body cannot be at odds with you. It cannot be your enemy, your opponent, because its sole function is to identify the presence of your individuality perfectly. It is nothing less than your total ally. But the ego says that it is something that it is not, and wants you to deal with it on that basis. Now, the reality of everything is totally harmless, because total harmlessness is the condition of its reality. The reality of your body is totally harmless, because total harmlessness is the condition of its reality. The Father moved. The Father moves. And the movement looks like you. What do you mean, looks like you? Looks like you. Is experienceable as you. And because the movement of God was harmless, the visibility and tangibility, the experienceability of you is harmless. Not only that, it is also harmlessness, is also the condition of your awareness of its reality. In other words, you don't really have a mind that is capable of being successfully split and therefore conflicted, that actually has the capacity to look at something and see something that isn't there, see something different from what's really there. It's important here. Not only is the Course bringing your attention to the fact that every aspect of creation is harmless, in spite of the apparent danger that you can see in it, your mind is also harmless, not truly capable of creating a conflicted world to see. It may distort your perception, but it can't make God's creation actually be harmful. Your capacity to see the kingdom of heaven is intact. That's the point. Your capacity to see reality as it is speaks to the harmlessness of your mind. The fact that no matter how conflicted you seem to experience it, that is not its true state. That is an illusion as well. Do you see that what it's saying here the reality of everything observed, I'm inserting that word, the reality of everything observed is totally harmless because total harmlessness is the condition of its reality. It is also the condition of the observer of its reality. You see now? Harmlessness is the nature of the observed and the observer. So don't be too proud of yourself if you are one of those who can quickly and easily recognize something is wrong. Got it? If you are going to fly in the face of the ego's suggestion that you do indeed live in a hostile and harmful environment, you are also going to have to challenge the idea that you actually have a capacity to recognize danger, a capacity to see evil, because if you want healing, you've got to recognize the benignness of that which needs to be healed together with the benignness of your mind in the act of observing the thing that needs healing. That is the only way you bring singularity into the picture. And singularity is the only thing that causes instantaneous transformation of illusion into the conscious experience of reality that's called healing. How on earth could you stand making a gift of acknowledging the truth of what you're seeing if you hold out for the right to not only see truth but error as well?